Hey, welcome to Madhouse Magazine Radio Hour. Today, my guest is Anjelia Pelay, the legendary Anjelia Pelay. She's like a five-tool player. She's a singer, a dancer, an actress, a keyboard player, I don't know what else, a producer, a model, a brain surgeon, rocket scientist. She does it all. And of course, you know Paul Galiszewski, who holds the record for being on the show over 700 times. This is actually his 700th appearance tonight. So congratulations on that, Paul.
Lifetime Achievement Award. Couldn't have happened to a better man.
Yes. So, and then Anjelia picked out the album that was spotlighting today, and it is Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs by Derek and the Dominos, one of the greatest albums ever recorded. I've been wanting to do a Clapton or a Derek and the Dominoes album for quite a while, so I'm glad that you picked this.
I'm so excited.
Yes, it's an excellent choice. All right, so now it is time to get to know Anjelia Pelay. So, like I said,
I'm like, wait, I might need to research myself. I'm getting
so
old.
Let's start off. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Toms River, New Jersey.
Yes.
And I grew up in Jersey. So we're all in Jersey together right now.
Yes.
I have lived in New York City for a while when I went to acting school and was doing acting. I lived in Florida for a little while when I did a couple of films there. And then I lived in California for the past like 5.5 years. And then I just came back because, I was diagnosed with lupus and a couple other autoimmune disorders, but I'm okay. Like everything's fine. And I'm like getting back on my feet. It's not contagious, I promise. Or like it's hereditary. So like, but I'm not dying. So it's all good. But
good.
you know, I had to come back.
She actually came back to be with me and hang out with me.
Also that like there's like a couple of things like
you want me to call security and have him dragged out of there? You know this guy?
So like there's a couple of things, but in all like realness, there really is like a couple of reasons why I came back for a little while. You know, for grounding and other things, and it feels nice to.
It's good to be back home, right?
Yeah, it is, and like I'm really excited. Like. I'm really excited to meet you and see
that's
Paul,
the best part about coming back.
It is. It's amazing. And then like the show next week is going to be exciting.
All right. Yeah. Tell us about the show first. We'll get back to that again later too. But what's the show?
I also was like, okay, so mentioning the show next week is like Cafe Artiste. Is that in Ocean Grove? Is that, how do you say it?
Artiste.
Artiste.
Yes. Cafe Artiste in Ocean Grove, New Jersey.
Yes,
that's a very nice town.
And that's Tuesday night next week, and we're headlining.
Tell us about how you got into singing and acting and all these amazing things you've been doing in California, all the roles you've had, all this great stuff.
So I I grew up in musical theater, and I started playing piano at the age of 5. So I definitely like grew up performing and everything, but music to me like meant way too much, and I kind of like was too afraid to touch it. Like when I got to a certain age, and acting to me was easy, like, you know, so I went the acting route at first, and it was great. Like I booked some nice roles, and like the pay was nice. But when my dad got sick, my dad was a blues guitar player, and this is why I picked this album, because like he raised me on Clapton, and like this was one of my favorite albums ever that I have of his from 1970, and I literally like would fall asleep with it after he passed away. Like not to be like morbid, but there's certain things about him and that he like raised me on. So when he was dying of cancer, I picked up a guitar and I started like teaching myself guitar, and my life changed. So I sang my whole life, I played piano my whole life, I danced my whole life, I acted my whole life, but it wasn't until I actually picked up a guitar until I found myself as an artist, my own voice, and was going through so much. Like music actually did save my life. And I got signed quickly after, and I headlined Stone Pony for my CD release show.
Wow.
Now this is like 5 years ago. So like in the area, like I became like up and coming like pretty quick, and then like slammed out to California, and then I opened for like Johnny and June Carter, Cash's only child, which was amazing, and
That's
Billy
cool.
Ray Cyrus as well.
Wow,
And
the Billy Ray?
yeah,
Oh,
Billy Ray, but like it's obviously cooler to open for Johnny and June's kid.
Oh,
At
yeah,
least to me.
yeah.
But like Billy Ray's cool. Like
Johnny and June's kid
Yeah, their
and
only child
Miley
they had.
Cyrus's dad. So
yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
You can look at it
That's
like
the
that.
thing. It's like it's almost like right there. But I also, I had some cool gigs out there. I played like the Oscars after party twice
Get
on like
out.
a floating piano on like
Did you
the
ever meet
rooftop
Harvey
of the
Weinstein?
pool. I actually was supposed to audition for one of his films years ago. My dad was still alive, and I missed it. I was sick.
Thank God.
Isn't that
see?
weird? I never forget
see?
that. I probably could find that email for you guys with the
Ooh,
script
we'd
that
like to
has his
see
name
that.
on it.
Oh, man.
I got real lucky. I missed
Dodged
that
the bullet.
audition. I might have made it though, like bigger right now with more money, but I might be like even more messed up.
You don't want to
So,
earn it that
oh,
way.
no.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
yeah.
so continue now. You're playing the Oscar party.
Oh, the Oscars after
Yeah,
party.
well, tell us about the Oscar party that you're playing. Who was at this party?
Like random celebrities that were really cool. Like, did you ever see The Office?
Of course.
I got a lot of I remember Stanley and like from The Office was there. He's so funny.
Stanley. Which one's Stanley?
He's
The
like,
big fat guy?
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah. Actually, both big fat guys from The Office were there, so that
Okay.
was like really funny. Like, so there's just like so many like random celebrities, you've seen and stuff. You might not like actually know their name, but like you know
Right.
them and stuff like that.
Right.
That was an interesting time. It was fun, but I'm like really weird. Like before I perform, I'm kind of like quiet before shows, and I don't like to like go crazy until after. So I like was up in the canopy like alone with my best friend and missed so many fun things that were going on at
Wow.
this party. Like until after I went on and like most of the food was gone and like alcohol. Like I suck. Like what the hell? Oh my god. I'm sitting there all alone like
You and
waiting to go
Stanley
on.
eating the crumbs off
Yeah,
the
me and
table.
Stanley missed out, man. So there's like a bunch of different like random gigs that I've gotten since then, and I was doing really well on my own, but then once I got sick, I kind of like had to go slower. So I'm the tortoise now, not the hare. But I
Okay.
feel as long as I get there and I
But
keep doing my thing.
but what about and when you were in California, what acting roles? Did you have some acting roles and stuff
Yeah,
while you were there?
yeah.
What did-
Well, I mean, in my life, I've done a lot of different acting roles, and like most of them are like U5s or like day player roles, or a couple of recurring roles I booked, but U5s are like under 5 lines.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I'm on a
See,
show,
I didn't know that. See,
or
that's
like
Hollywood lingo. I don't know.
Yeah, so like, but I have lines on the show and I'm credited.
That's cool.
on at the
Just
end.
one
or
line
on
would be
the-
good. Just a walk-on part.
Yeah,
I'd be
actually,
happy
the
with that.
Harvey Weinstein role I was supposed to audition for was a U5.
Wow.
It was like, I'm not saying I'm hot, but like it was like hot chick behind like working the ice cream stand or something. I was like, I don't know. That's all I remember. It's a long time ago. I just remember it's like that was the description of it. And I had like a couple lines, and then I missed
That's
it.
funny. That's the same role I had in the high school play. I was hot chick behind
Yes,
ice cream counter.
that's awesome. Such
a
a
long
like
time
random
ago.
thing too. Oh my goodness, it's so funny. But anyway, like whatever. These are just like dumb acting things.
Oh,
that
that's
happen,
awesome,
like-
though. Any acting gig. There's 10 million people in the world that want these acting roles. To get picked for anything is very, that's cool
Thank
stuff.
you,
Yeah,
Dave.
I'd be happy.
She's always hot girl. In any role, it says Anjelia. We talked about this on the way over here. It
Yeah,
just
I
says,
mean, like I don't think
Anjelia's hot girl.
I don't know why, like, these stupid names on there. I'm like, what the heck? Like, you guys couldn't even at least come up with a name. Oh, I did a horror film, too. Like, I'm the first one that gets killed. So, it's on Hulu if you want to watch it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's called Run Like Hell.
So all of this stuff must be on IMDb then,
It's
right?
all on
You have
IMDb,
the,
yeah.
Okay, so everyone
So
go on
everyone's
IMDb, check out
bored.
all these roles, and go watch these movies. That
If you
sounds
want
like
to.
good stuff. Yeah,
No
yeah.
pressure. I'd rather you listen to
Absolutely.
my music. But it's fun, and, like, I do love acting. It's still, like, a great form of art. And I feel like it's still therapeutic, but it's not as therapeutic as music is.
Right.
It's
So
not
it's good to
as
do
like
both. Yeah,
connecting
yeah,
as
yeah.
music, because you have more control over your music and connecting with people
Mm-hmm.
directly, as opposed to being an actor, actress. Like you're being directed, so you're still yourself in a way. Like it's still you portraying the role, but
Right.
it's not you creating everything, unless you're like Zach Braff making Garden State or like you know what I mean. Like
Right.
otherwise, as a singer songwriter, I feel like it's just more rewarding connecting with people and helping other people and. But I love both.
So now, do you have any plans now that you're in New Jersey? Are you going to start looking for in New York City for acting roles? Or are you
Yeah.
concentrating on your music now, or are you going to do both?
Both, but music primarily.
Okay,
But
so
definitely both.
So then let's get to the music part now. That you have a album out or EP? What is it?
Well, my first album was released and I was signed on. It's like still on iTunes, and Spotify and stuff. But my new stuff, I've been releasing like singles instead of the full actual album. But I'm planning on releasing the full album. I just haven't come up with a release date yet, and I want to build up to it. I don't want to just kind of like release it and have it just like chill.
Right, I want a big fanfare.
Exactly.
And stuff.
So this is like my beginning steps of my comeback here on the East Coast, and then like I'm planning like end of summer or something, releasing the full album. We recorded it at Wax LTD Studios in Hollywood, which is where Jimi Hendrix last recorded. The Doors recorded there. Miley. We just had to hashtag Miley on here, like, so that was like really cool, like recording there and stuff. My producer Brian Blake on the album, like he worked there a lot, so that's why we got to like record there, which was great.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you must be a big shot, because when Paul told me you were coming on, I had your name. I went to friend you on Facebook, and it said she cannot accept any more friends. She is too cool. You are so.
We need to be Facebook
You are so
friends.
not cool enough to be her friend,
oh
Dennis.
Oh my God, you're too cool.
So actually, what you should do then, we should pick someone right now on the show and delete them. So then
I'm down if you want. Should we do it? Should we really do it? All right, let's do it. Let's see what this is. Oh my
Paul.
Oh my God! I felt so
Yeah. So now let's take a minute here and talk to Paul to see what's going on in his life. Because Paul is very busy all the time. He's the premier drummer in New Jersey, of course, and he's played with everybody. And tell us what's coming up in your future, or what you've done just recently, Paul.
Exciting stuff. I mean, me and Anjelia just got engaged. We're expecting our first child.
He told the waitress earlier that we were. He's like, no, it's our honeymoon, and like they thought he was serious too. I was like, they're gonna bring champagne and we don't have time. That was really funny though. He's so good at acting.
We have.
He could be in a role. He could play Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. I should be part of that.
Hot guy behind the ice cream counter.
So yeah, always busy. I'm back in the studio next month again with a couple artists, and obviously the show with Anjelia next week. Right. And
you told me about some big shows coming up here.
In April, I'm in Sweden with a guy who wrote a song, "Summer of '69."
I know who that is.
So yeah, I can't actually say his name. So
you can't say his name.
I'll just say that.
Can I say his initials?
Cuts like a knife.
And then say his own name.
So yeah, I have 3 shows in Sweden with him.
That's awesome.
With the other artists, which I perform with, I just got back from San Antonio, Texas.
You can't say any of their names? It's not that
contractually. No, I'm not allowed.
It's not that.
He's so professional.
It's not that awesome. Then I could say that too. Yeah, I'm performing with a group that wrote "Whole Lot of Love," and I am taking the singer's place, whose initials are Robert Plant.
I did do a couple. I did do a couple shows at Marshall Tucker Band. So that.
See, you can say that. All right.
Yeah, Marshall Tucker Band. Yes. I'm still with Vic Firth Drumsticks.
Nice.
And then my newest thing is, I just got my own custom snare drum being made by BIB Drums, and that's going to
I'm going to be in the photo.
And yes, she's going to be in my promo photo, and
nice.
It's going to be that, and it's going to be in all Sam Ash stores throughout the country.
Oh, that is awesome!
With my signature on it.
Yeah,
that is so cool. Glad I brought that up. That's awesome.
That was a good one.
Stuff.
I'm glad you remember
I know how to get in there and bring things out of people.
Definitely.
It's just like when I was talking to Ian Anderson at Jethro Tull. I couldn't shut him up today. I was like, come on, I got things to do, Anderson. Let's move this along, bro. So now we're going to start our discussion of this album right here, Derek and the Dominos. I have to keep looking at it. Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. It's a very long title, and it's very confusing. So did you know this album was released November 9th, 1970. Very good.
She's ready for the quiz.
That's good, because you told her I quiz people?
Yes,
All right, very good. So it's the only studio album by Derek and the Dominos.
Yes.
And it's a double album, and it's best known for what track?
Layla.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Right?
Which I can tell you what it's about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And it's often regarded as Eric Clapton's greatest musical achievement.
It is.
So now we're going to talk about the band members. Now go ahead. Tell us the band members and their position in the band. You ready?
Bobby Whitlock was keys and vocals besides Clapton.
Right.
And then Carl Rattle, is that how he says?
Radel, yeah.
Radel was the bass player. The drummer was Jim Gordon.
Very good.
Yeah, and then Allman, right?
Yes.
Dwayne Allman.
Which one? Dwayne. Yeah.
He
Dwayne
was
Allman.
the slide guitar player, and Clapton like felt like he wanted him in the band so bad, and he was like, "This is like my long lost brother, like musically." Yeah,
they had a man crush on each other.
Yeah, hell yeah, and they did a lot
awesome.
of drugs together.
Yes, and they pushed
That's
each
no
other
secret.
too. That's what the album was so good.
Yeah,
that they just,
it
all
really
right,
was
you're gonna do
amazing.
this, I'm gonna do that, and they elevated each other's
truly.
playings. So it's great time, great album.
So beautiful.
The album, this is the sad part though. It only peaked at number 16 on the U.S. Billboard Top LP charts.
Didn't they release it though first, not under Clapton's name, because he wanted to be like incognito at first, and then the second time they released it, they put it under Clapton. That's when.
Well, but what do you mean? It was always Derek and the Dominos.
Yeah, but they didn't say like.
Oh, right. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
right.
And that's why, like, I think that
because it did. It returned to the U.S. album charts again in 72, 74, and 77, and has since been certified platinum.
Yeah.
So the funny part about it, I will get to that now, that they were calling themselves
Derek and the Dynamites?
No, Eric and the Dynamos. Eric and the Dynamos, right?
Dynamos,
and the guy who was introducing them at one of their first gigs, he was drunk, and he said, Derek and the Dominoes.
Yeah, and then they went with it.
And they said, all right, we're going to go with that, you know, because Eric didn't want it to be the Eric Clapton show. He wanted it to be a band, and them all, you know, he didn't want his notoriety and his star power infecting the band, because he had such a hard time with all these other bands that he was in, with Cream and Ginger Baker driving him crazy.
Yeah.
And then he just came off of Blind Faith, and that's how they met all these guys. You know the story about how they all met?
It was like, didn't they record the first time together was on George Harrison's album, All Things Must Pass?
Well, you're right, but Clapton wasn't on that. The way that they met first was right at, during Blind Faith.
Oh, you're right. Blind Faith on tour, right?
This Blind Faith here.
You're right.
That,
yes, you were
Delaney
so right.
and Bonnie and friends.
Delaney and Bonnie and
opened
friends.
up for Blind Faith, right?
So right?
And all of these guys were in that band, right?
You're right.
So then afterwards, when Blind Faith broke up, Eric Clapton joined Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, and then he became friends with all these guys, right? So then the tour ended with Delaney and Bonnie and Friends, and then these guys went to play on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass album. He was recording that album in England, and the off time they would go hang out at Eric Clapton's house, and they would start jamming.
But it is so crazy that we know you were gonna bring it up, what the album's about.
Oh, of course, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna let you do that. That's the craziest part of any song.
It's like so crazy. What amazing.
Yeah, so
about Patty Boyd.
All right, yeah, let's
like
talk about that.
Layla is
The
Patty
elephant
Boyd
in the room.
Yeah.
So the song. So like I said, they were at his mansion in England. They were recording, and then they were recording with George, and then
their best friends, Eric and George.
Eric and George are best
George
friends.
is in love with Patty Boyd, who's George Harrison's wife.
No, Eric was in love with Patty Boyd.
That's what I mean. Eric's in love with George's wife, Patty Boyd, and then Layla, he writes about her, and then eventually writes Wonderful Tonight, like later on, and then he writes this whole album about her.
Right, exactly.
And then like, there's still amazing Beatles songs written about her. I mean, this chick, Patty Boyd.
She must have been something.
You are something.
I gotta say.
And that's the bit. Oh, you're good. He's so good. I mean, really though. Oh my God.
I requested Patty Boyd. I sent an email to her to request an interview.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Said, screw you.
No, she's that.
you have a better chance of being Facebook friends with Angela than you have Anjelia than you do with interviewing me. No, she said she was too busy, but blah blah blah. Anyway, so
we might get her now.
Yeah. So yeah,
so
it was.
amazing.
That's what Bobby Whitlock, who you mentioned before, the keyboardist and the vocalist, who he wrote a lot of these songs
with Clapton.
And his voice was so influential on this album, and it was, you know, it was really.
I feel like it's like him, Clapton, and Allman, but like Clapton's
exactly,
like main
and
part.
that he started dating Patty Boyd's sister at this time too.
What the hell?
Right, exactly. So he was saying. He was saying, I'm in the middle of all of this, and I can tell you that
he knew the elephant in the room.
Yeah, he knew what was going on, and he said, George, that album, All Things Must Pass, was all written about Eric. And this album was all written about George and Patty and the triangle that it was.
Wow, that's
so,
like some serious
two amazing albums. That one's a triple album even.
Yes, oh my God.
And this is a double album. And that's how awesome Patty is.
Yeah,
so
she's
I think you should start dating Patty Boyd.
Might as well, sure, yeah.
She's 75. Would you still date her at this point?
Hey.
Hell, I would, and I'm not even gay. Like, seriously. Like, come on.
I mean, it's me.
Paul. Because that's me. I really want to know if he would.
Whoa, my important notes here. So all right. So now I want to talk about this. Some things that I saw written about Patty Boyd and Eric Clapton. It said, not even heroin, which Clapton had then begun to use, could dull the pain about Patty Boyd.
His unrequited love.
Dave Marsh in Rolling Stone, The History of Rock and Roll, wrote, there are few moments in the repertoire of recorded rock where a singer or writer has reached so deeply into himself that the effect of hearing them is akin to witnessing a murder or a suicide. And to me, Layla is the greatest of them. So there you go. It's just like Eric Clapton pouring out his heart and soul onto the album there and bleeding all over the stage.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's just
I love
ridiculous.
the music break at the end of it. This version too. That whole jam music break session they have at the end. It's so beautiful.
Song. And that he got the name Layla. Of course, it was from some book.
Yeah.
That was about the same topic that he was reading. It was about a guy who fell in love with a woman who was not available
and is like irresistible.
Killed himself.
Yeah,
yes, he ended up killing himself
like beautiful
over it.
Poison, like an oxymoron.
And that was basically the same thing. What happened to Clapton?
Yeah,
here, you know, so he lost his mind.
You know, definitely did, but it worked out.
The funny part of it though is that he eventually got her after George and her broke up in 1974. And so you know what
George
he did?
Is the best man. That every time I try to explain it to my friends my age, they're like, "Wait, what?" Like, they're like, "What do you?"
Is this General Hospital you're watching, or is this
talking about? They're like, "Yeah, no, for real." They don't even believe me, and I literally have to sit there and explain no, they're best friends. All these love songs, this song, because they don't know Clapton's name, maybe, or even George Harrison's name. So I'm like, they're written about the same woman, Patty Boyd, and they're best friends. She leaves George for Eric. Then she marries Eric, and George Harrison's the best man. Isn't that the best friend in the world? Like, that must be the best kind of human you could ever want in your life.
That's hysterical.
Seriously,
yeah, that's
it's
a good
amazing.
Friend. Yeah.
I feel like I don't say much, many nice things about myself, but I would do that for a best friend. I really would. I know it sounds crazy and most chicks probably wouldn't say that, but I would. If the person I was in love with my best friend that bad, I wouldn't want them to be with me because I feel like that's forcing something that isn't supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Deep, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff,
I want the two people I love to be happy. But that's a very significant situation, and hopefully that doesn't happen. If it does, then we're going to come back here years later, you guys, and we're going to be like,
absolutely.
That sucks. I would support it if they're great people and we're honest and all that stuff.
So now and what is most shocking to me, or not really, is that they got together in 74, they got married in 79, and then they tried to have a baby but they couldn't, blah blah blah, and then he cheated on her after all of that. Almost killed himself to get her drugs. And then he cheated on her and had another baby with another Italian model.
Oh my God!
And
what a
very
mess.
sadly, they gave that
That's
Italian
the
model
one Tears in Heaven's about, right?
Gave birth to that son who fell out the window and died.
That's so
it was
tragic.
Right. I just watched that. There's a new documentary on Clapton on Showtime, HBO, one of those. You got to see it. 12 bars or something like that. And
my God!
His whole life was so tragic.
Yeah.
So
that's why I love him.
Yeah. He's been through a lot. Great music comes from people who have been through tragedies and been through things in their life. So
life experiences.
100%.
Exactly. So that's so I want to talk about the band, what happened afterwards. So let's talk about the songs first. Now, part of the show you may not know either is that we smell the album at this point of the show.
Like a library, but even better.
Exactly. So you playing at home, go get your album. Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs. And we're about to smell it, and we're going to talk about our favorite song from the album.
I'm so excited.
Oh, my God. That is 1970 all in there. Yes, smell that.
I'm so excited.
Is this your first album you've ever smelled?
No, you know I have this. This is my dad's.
I know, but I didn't know if you smell it.
No, but you are right. But yeah, hell yeah.
That smells good, right?
That smells amazing.
That's awesome, yes.
Like you said,
Here you
1970,
go, Paul.
when music was alive hardcore.
So I got to say,
amazing.
Why Does Love Gotta Be So Sad? Besides Layla is my favorite song off of this album. What about you? Bell Bottom Blues, your favorite?
Bell Bottom Blues is my favorite.
What about you, Paul?
Yeah.
You got a favorite on this
That's
one?
my number one.
Go with Layla if you're not sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say Layla still.
Now, of course, A Goodfellas, my favorite movie, features Layla prominently in that at the court towards the end when he starts killing everybody and they're playing that and they're showing the dead bodies showing up all over the place. And that piano part in it in Layla that Jim Gordon, the drummer, allegedly wrote that, but did he really? No is the answer, because at the time he was dating Rita Coolidge. You familiar with her? She was a singer back in the day. She also married Chris Christopherson. But she wrote that, and Jim Gordon was dating her at the time, and he stole it and said it was his.
I do remember, and isn't it, there's something that was like a little bit like behind in it or something?
Well, let me tell you about what happened to the band, all right? Yeah. So by 1971, it was all over. They like 1 year in time. That was it. Yeah. It was like a flash in the pan.
It was such a beautiful year.
Yes, it can never be recaptured, and it was just an amazing time. So May 1971, it was all over. Between the drugs, Patty Boyd, personal conflicts, it took his toll. So at this point, Clapton sank into despair and heroin use, and he didn't do really much at all until 1974 when he snapped out of it and he released this album here called 461 Ocean Boulevard.
God,
and that's when he had his like heroin detox, and this is a great album as well.
Yeah, it is.
But during this time, he did the Rainbow concert. He did a couple things here and there, Bangladesh and all that kind of stuff. But he was just, drinking, drugs, and just
like out of control,
and just staying in his house. He was like,
cocaine,
absolutely. He was out of control.
But the heroin's the worst.
Carl Radle, the bass player, he died at age 37 in 1980 from drugs, right? And Bobby Whitlock, he went on to a solo career and stuff, doing this and that, playing with people. But then he took off a long time, and he didn't play again with Clapton till like 2000 maybe, the longest time. Yeah. But the most interesting story is Jim Gordon, the drummer. I bet you didn't know this. 1983, in a psychotic episode associated with undiagnosed schizophrenia, Gordon murdered his mother and was sentenced to 16 years in life for prison.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that till recently either.
Wow.
That June 3rd, 1983, he attacked his 72-year-old mother with a hammer before fatally stabbing her with a butcher knife.
You do not mention this stuff. Like, my dad didn't even tell me.
He claimed that a voice told him to kill her. This was very quiet because, like I said, I know everything, and I just found this out recently. Not for this show, just a couple of months back I found it.
And what are the odds of that, too?
Exactly. Yeah. So only after his arrest was he properly diagnosed with schizophrenia. And in 84, he was sentenced to 16 life in prison. He was eligible for parole in 92, but he's been denied several times. And at the last hearing, he claimed his mother was still alive, and he declined to even attend any of the parole hearings anymore, and saying that he's still seriously psychologically incapacitated and a danger when he's not taking his medicine. So as of 2018, he is serving his sentence at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville, California.
Whoa.
Is that where you just came from? Was that where you were in California?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to go there. Definitely not. Oh my God.
So that's a fascinating story. This is the kind of album. So I want to thank you for picking this album. And that's it. Let's hear it for Anjelia Pelay and Paul Galiszewski and me, of course. Let's hear it for us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.